Thanks for taking the time to join today. In today's webinar, we're going to take a closer look at something we are quite excited about at iSquare, which is the digital experience sandbox, which is one of our newest innovations at iSquare, and which is essentially a platform for creation and testing. So over the next, around about 45 minutes, I'll give you a little tour around the sandbox. You'll learn what the sandbox exactly is and what makes it so powerful. You will get more familiar with its philosophy and all the benefits that it brings, and you will see how the sandbox can be operated in different ways as well. And last but not least, I will also show you some practical examples and use cases from the real business world, and I hope that we'll be able to inspire you with your own research. So let me share my screen and start with the presentation. Okay, you should all be able to see it now. So yeah, let's get started. So before we really dive into the topic, I would like to point out some challenges that integrated research is facing these days. So one of the current problems is that expectations around digital market research just keeps growing. So these expectations could address something like, why does research take so long? It could address, how can we get high quality research with deep insights, so the quality aspect? Or why is research difficult to set up and why does it cost so much? And that brings us straight to a familiar tension in our industry, which is that digital research today needs to do three things really well, which is it has to be fast, it has to deliver depth and quality, and it has to be cost effective and scalable. And these three demands make up what's often called the iron triangle, which is a classic trade-off situation where you have to decide for two of the three factors, or let's say one comes at a cost of another. But luckily at iSquare, we have now developed a solution that's able to meet these demands. And this solution is the digital experience sandbox. In the next few slides, I will walk you through how the sandbox helps to resolve these tensions and how it can be seen as a fast, efficient, and high-quality way of research. Now, you might be wondering, sandbox, what exactly does that mean? You could see the analogy of a real sandbox on a playground. It's a safe, closed environment where you can test ideas and explore freely. But first, of course, you need sand. In our case, this would be a digital environment. Here, it's just sand. And in the next phase, you would create something. You would build your sand castle. You could rebuild, for example, a sandcastle from, let's say, Disney World, or you could also use your own creativity and build a completely new one. You could also then add new towers to your existing castle or connect different parts of it together. And in the third and final phase, you would have the show and test phase, where you show the sandcastle to your friends, or in our context, rather to your team members, to your partners or clients, and then you align, you discuss, and eventually start testing as well with real users inside this safe environment. So now that you've memorized this sandcastle analogy, it might be a bit more easy to understand what the sandbox is really about. So it allows you to extract and create live environments, and you can then edit and modify them and try out new ideas. Sorry, I think my presentation jumped. Here we are. Then it allows you to show your created environments to other people, such as colleagues or partners or clients, and all that without the need of having a developer involved in the process. And lastly, it allows you to run these tests in environments with real users. There are also three other words we like to use to describe the sandbox, and that's the combination of visualize, collaborate, and test. And the idea behind this is to make the process of designing and prototyping and testing not only more efficient, but also more engaging and collaborative for everyone involved. And this could mean that designers and developers and researchers and stakeholders are collaborating. So what do we mean in detail with these three terms? One of the great strengths of the sandbox is that it allows you to simulate your ideas in context, right? So you're not just designing static mockups, but you're actually building interactive flows that feel much closer to the final experience. And this can start as early as your prototypes and go all the way through to complete user journeys. And a big part of this realism comes from the ability to connect your own tools and assets. And that includes things like your design system or media libraries, or even linked data sources. And also, of course, you can mix and match style patterns or mock data sources that, that would make typical dynamics that you find in user experiences. Then next we have the collaboration aspect. So like I said, the sandbox is designed to be a collaborative space that brings different team members together. And you could, for example, you could brainstorm a new concept, you could refine an interface or review a flow. And this is where the visual editor comes in, because you can just talk about what we've created and contribute new things to that. And also another important aspect is that it's a standalone tool or a standalone platform. So rather than being tied to a specific silo, you can simply invite your team members and start working together. So this helps to break down some of the usual barriers that often occur, and supports like a more iterative approach. And finally, we also have the testing aspect, which means that once you've built out a flow or interface, you can use the sandbox to test it across different touch points. This could be, for example, on desktop or mobile devices. And just like with our in-context technology at iSquare, you can expose your test environment then to real participants and therefore also collect authentic reactions, authentic data, because you're also testing under realistic conditions. And yeah, like it's also said in the last sentence, right? If you want even deeper insights and learnings, you can also make use of the other tools or the other research tools that iSquare is providing. This would not only include behavior metrics, but also things like eye tracking or emotion analysis. Although I have to say, this technology is not ready yet, but this will probably come in the short-term or mid-term future. Then let's also have a look at how rich and diverse the sandbox already is. In the past, thanks to our context system, we have been able to build many realistic media environments, as you can see down here. So there will be TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and many more. And these environments are accurate replications of the real platforms in which you can already cover a wide range of research questions. But the most likely case, though, in these media environments would be to do ad testing. And we've also built many retail environments that you see in the bottom right corner, such as Amazon, Walmart, Target, and others. And these are replicas of classic shopping platforms to test research questions that are relevant to the DCOM industry. And some of these platforms, for example, the Tesco one, has been built just lately in the Sandbox and offers even higher flexibility. The thing is now, in the past, these media and retail environments were quite difficult to build because they had to be built by experienced developers at iSquare, and basically this has now changed entirely because we have now much more flexibility, and we're now able to yeah, build almost any kind of environment and all that without the need of these experienced developers. So the idea is that with just a little training and motivation, everyone should be able to use the sandbox and bring his or her ideas to life. Yeah, then let's now have a look at the sandbox in its practical use. And here I have to highlight Builder.io, which is our workhorse, our power tool of our sandbox. So Builder.io, it's not only a website, it's a content management system. If you're coming from the technical side, you might be familiar with that term. It's a browser-based visual editor. You can actually change things just by clicking and drag and dropping elements. There's not you can inject code, but you don't have to. And the third aspect is it's a collaborative platform, as I already mentioned. And yeah, the visual editor enables you to import designs, to edit content, to generate content, and to do all sorts of magic tricks that I will get back to later on. Let's now have a look at how we actually create the sandbox environments. So there are different ways how to achieve results, and the simplest and the most logic one would be to just start from scratch with a blank page within the visual editor and just adding blocks of text, blocks of images. This could be interactive elements, you name it. The other one, which is also very interesting, is to import already made designs through Figma. So Figma has the option to import or to upload designs into Builder.io, and it's a two-step process. So we have the ability to basically take not every content, but a lot of content from the internet. There are some limitations. For example, it's difficult to get content that is behind a login wall or behind a paywall, but there are workarounds for that. But in general, if you can access a website through your browser, you can also import it into Figma, or let's say into the sandbox. And of course, this comes very handy. I will also talk about that later. Then number three, that's the hybrid approach. This is actually a mixture of creating environments from scratch. So building elements, assembling these together, building templates or building blocks, and reuse and recycle them across different pages of your digital experience. And you could also combine that with the techniques of importing designs or importing elements from web pages that you have searched before. And this hybrid approach is especially interesting because it allows you to scale your project in a very effective way. And last, we have the generative aspect where AI comes into play. And Builder.io recently added a function where you can chat with an AI assistant who will help you create different blocks within your visual editor. You could also use this chatbot to manipulate certain areas of your creation, but yeah, I found it to be most effective if you start from scratch with a certain idea. Yeah, and talking about number two, right, the importing designs through Figma, there's also something important to mention here. With the Sandbox, you can, but you don't need to build everything from scratch. So there's a lot of ways to accelerate your work or to speed up your work, and that's why we say build smart and not from scratch. And this could involve things like importing a full website or Figma designs that you have maybe created by your own or that you received from UX designers, from your client. And you start working from there. You can make tweaks in Figma already, or you can import it and make tweaks to your design skeleton that is uploaded to your visual editor. You could then also use uh, AI to modify your content or use other generative functions within Builder, such as you could use, for example, regular large language models to solve more advanced layout problems or design problems that require some specific knowledge. So these tools are in some a huge time saver and yeah, and after all, help to spend more time focusing on the creative aspects and less time asking around for help. So this is why I wanted to highlight that especially. And of course, if I had to name two key skills that are most useful for the Sandbox, I would say it's the creativity and the skill of creative problem solving, because these are all kind of new technologies where you just have to dig a little bit deeper. But if you're persistent, if you are creative in your approaches, then you'll probably have a good time with these technologies that already exist around the Sandbox. Um, Yeah, then let's have a look at practical examples. And here I want to quickly show you how easy it is to actually import a website into Figma. So you're starting from Figma, you run the plugin, you type in the internet address. In this case, it was Rewe, a German retailer, and the design is then uploaded to Figma. From there, there's the another option to upload this to Builder, but yeah, this is not too interesting. So I thought I might just show this instead. Okay, then there's also, if we're looking at the possibilities, once you have uploaded your design into Builder.io, you will see that the technology recognizes the layered HTML structure from the original website, which means that all the elements appear in this sidebar, and they also have like a hierarchical structure, and you can change the order of the elements, although I would not recommend that, or edit them one by one. Yeah, then another thing I want to quickly highlight is that the Sandbox is designed so that you don't have to be technical to do useful work in it. It's kind of like using a website builder. So you have building blocks and templates, but they're designed with research in mind. So you can adjust the layout, edit content, add tracking, and all that without the need to loop in a full development team. Especially the metrics tracking is basically just a drag and drop. It's really simple sometimes. Or just as we can see in this demo, that you add a simple functionality. You go to data, add elements, events, and then you can see like click events, hovering events, and you can just get a whole layer of interaction without having to code a single line of code. So what's so important here to understand is that the goal is that research and teams can test ideas directly without feeling like they're waiting in line for implementation from the development. So that puts people closer to the questions and makes it easier to follow what's actually interesting for them. That's why we also like to say that the Sandbox is built for researchers and not only engineers. So happy to answer your questions. If you have some,
Thank you,
just
Roman.
let me know. Yeah.
For stepping back into your webinar. First of all, thank you for all the demonstrations and all the great examples. I haven't seen some of these myself, and we gathered some questions here. And let me start. Which one do I start with? Yeah, there's a Figma question, there's an AI question, and there's a like a research flow question. Maybe we'll start with that one, since we always mention that you can test and the question was like, how can I integrate the Sandbox in my research flows? And the person mentioned a questionnaire tool. Of course, we're all using different questionnaire tools. I don't know, from Microsoft Forms to TVN and all the other professional tools. How does that work?
It's actually quite simple. Of course, if we are about to handle a project, we're doing that all internally and setting that up. But there's also a really easy possibility to integrate the Sandbox into your research platform of choice. In sum, this would mean what you would get from us at iSquare would just be a final link and a context link which participants would access. So they would start with their regular online survey, and at some point they would be redirected within the browser to our in context environment, or the Sandbox environment, better said. Then they would just do their phase of media exploration or their user journey as they normally would, and after that they would be automatically redirected into the questionnaire.
Cool. Great. I think that helped. The Figma question was concerning, the kind of the difference. I know that's a broad question, but also how the tools are compatible. I think you mentioned it in the beginning, right?
Yeah. Compatible, well, I would say there are some things that work out probably better in Figma than in Builder. Because Figma, I'm not a strong user of Figma, so I don't have an expert knowledge about the tool. But from what I know is that doing the first design in Figma might be something, especially if you're used to Figma, that is quite easy to do. And also, I find the interface to be quite intuitive. You can just drag things around, things around. So there are certain elements that are or certain tasks that are easier to do with Figma before having everything embedded in like almost HTML or CSS in the CSS frame. However, how they're connected is it's pretty easy to upload stuff. So there's a plugin in Figma which lets you upload any type of design to Builder.io. And this works on an element level, but also on a full page level. And this also takes almost no time, right? You click upload, and one minute later, the design is available on Builder.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I hope that answers the question. And if not, please let us know. And the last question here is, there's two questions. One is like, how can I like rebuild like a site and what could be measured? So, I mean, you mentioned what the outcome would be, I guess, right? Like the behavioral measurement. I think that's what the question is.
Yeah, I think it's referring to that. So I already mentioned the different ways in which you can build a site. So that's either through building it all by yourself, which I would say takes um, yeah most time of all the four options. Then you can import it through Figma. You can let AI do the job if you're really about sketching up ideas and um, you're not really thinking much about details or the final outcome. Um, and then the way you test it, you basically we transform this site into a testable project, and you still have the ability to insert different tracking possibilities into your environment. This would mean we can mark certain elements to be click tracked, or this means we could track how many of the participants actually click on this element, on this call to action button, on this product. We can also add visibility, which means was a certain element visibility and how long was it visible. These are the two major building blocks for now. There might be some more in the future, but these are the ones that we're using so far to answer research questions.
Cool. Thanks. And finally, the future question as well, the AI question. You did mention AI functionalities, and the question is also aiming to like where or how is AI involved in this platform? Yeah.
Yeah, AI is involved in different stages of the platform. I mentioned some of them. So, for example, the technology that extracts the HTML information from publicly available websites and converts this into a Figma design, this is AI driven. However, it's kind of unknown to me what's actually happening under the hood, but it's I have to be honest, it does a great job. So I'm not too concerned about that. Then on the more covered side, we have the generative function within Builder.io that helps you in the creative process and helps you to use these building blocks more efficiently. And another AI aspect, well, would be, for example, for our demo case, right, where we used image generation models and LLMs to quickly generate a demo case or a testable case. It just helps you with content generation, I would say. Well, I mean, we use it right now for demo purposes, but of course, I could imagine other use cases where this would be also beneficial for clients to use.
Cool. And there was just one more question coming in, like an I-square question. Is eye tracking kind of included, or can you combine it?
Yeah, that's something we are currently working on. This will be the one of the bigger technical developments in the near future. Currently, this is still in development, but of course, we want to combine the power of our seal eye tracking with the Sandbox because it would totally make sense to combine these two technologies. But we still have some minor hurdles to overcome.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Roman. First of all, thank you for preparing this and walking us through the new innovation. And thank you all for participating. And then we'll let you go and get back to you via email after maybe, yeah, putting the deck together, sharing the insights with you via email, and say goodbye and thank you to everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining.
Thanks, Roman.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.